Impressive. Most impressive.
Well, thanks, Darth. Now I am the master. That music, those props, the incredible and distinctive sound effects, it can only be one universe, and DICE certainly have taken the time, effort and technical skills to not only take us to a galaxy far, far away, but allow us to revel in its staggering accuracy and authenticity. Welcome to my technical analysis of the Star Wars Battlefront beta on the PS4, Xbox One and both AMD and Nvidia powered PCs to give you a complete insight into how it runs across all hardware. I feel fitting for the technical marvel it is and the Frostbite engine that powers it.
Focus all firepower on it.
I apologise for the delay in getting this up. I only had a day and a half on the game and the beta before I had to shoot off, so I've had to come back and analyse the data now that I'm back in the UK. First up is the all-important resolution, and as I said for my E3 look at the game running on PS4 hardware, being a 1600 by 900p resolution, I would be surprised if that changed, and it has not. But what has improved is the image clarity over the launch title Battlefield 4. This also means that the Xbox One has also been delivered at the same 1280 by 720p resolution as its predecessor, but they both still target a 60 FPS rate. And at first many will and have thrown their hands in the air and claimed lack of effort or no improvements, and why, and incorrectly so. It only takes a glance and play to see what has happened with the engine and why. Frostbite has now made the move to a fully physically approximate rendering pipeline, which is not only a huge technical and tool-based shift, but also an art and design paradigm transition also, which delivers entirely new options and challenges for all. I mentioned this in my pre-E3 Star Wars preview from the then released in-engine trailer, and it is the new standard of big budget games. I have talked about this in far more detail in previous videos and articles, but for a good demonstration of this and a game that has delivered the best solution yet of a release game with PBR, check out my The Order 1886 analysis to learn more on how it works and why it looks so damn impressive. Like that game, DICE have followed a similar but not the same method, which here is called photogrammetry, that takes multiple photos of a real object, in this case direct access to movie props and costumes, along with more natural areas like rocks and trees, and then within the application matches these up to make a meshed replica of them within 3D space. It also allows them to capture the object's properties and luminance, which is a vital part so that the object's physical light properties can be calculated within the game and engine based on the light that hits it. And just like the Fox engine's method, the object has to be in the correct conditions, as black for example cannot be detected correctly in certain lighting or proximity environments and can become grey even near white, but careful preparation even more so for the external props. And as per the order, with these composite steps to recreate the look of cloth, plastic, steel or very diffuse rock formations, they can also manage the aliasing issues and help reduce them within play. This in turn has made a big leap in IQ over Battlefield 4 on both consoles, even though they run at the same resolution. The game also sports a temporal AA solution, but the PC version does not work from the menus and has to be activated from within the INI. I'm not convinced the consoles have this running, and this has made it harder to judge in such a short time, with much heavier per object and camera motion blur on both consoles over the PC. The PC's 100 slider is much lower than what both PS4 and Xbox One run, but I would not be surprised to see the TAA option in place when it launches. But the image clarity is very good considering it's a sub-native image, aside the obvious thin lines and distant object noise creeping in. The Xbox One is much better than Battlefield 4, but it has a much larger upscale deficit to make up, and certainly has the lowest IQ of the three. Dependent on your PC hardware mind, mileage may vary. This presents a much more noisy display on the Xbox One that manifests in all the same areas as the PS4, but to a much higher degree, and any high contrast scenes are equally as affected. And due to this, the image, although not ruining its stunning visual impact, is one that would benefit most from a TAA solution being added. The Xbox One also has a slightly more unstable performance than PS4, not a great deal worse, and most likely only notices in this kind of in-depth analysis, but it can drop 5-6 frames at points on the Tatooine demo for instance, whereby the PS4 needs a great deal more alpha effects and particle swamp sequences to drop any frames at all here. But it is the Hoth Walker assault, not unsurprisingly, that offers up the most stressful test in the game. Apologies, as in multiplayer it is nearly impossible to get a like-for-like example, but the Rebel base entrance and hangar can make both consoles and my AMD machine drop 4 or 5 frames consistently, maybe from the dense amount of geometry added to with tessellation and HDR light bloom, but even here the game offers up a very solid performance on both consoles. Across my 10-minute tests across all 3 maps and modes, the PS4 only dropped 140 frames, with a 0.7% drop rate or a 99.3 solid 60 delivered, and the Xbox One comes in with only a minor increase of 205 drop frames and a 0.9% drop or a 99.1% solid 60 FPS delivered, or more importantly 16.67 milliseconds delivered. Some sequences can cause bigger dips, like being blown up within a comm station, but most likely you die here, and again a 1 or 3 frame drop briefly would never really be noticed, and only the hangar section is an area you can notice these minor dips. It is a very impressive and solid delivery for a beta, and to put it into some perspective, as you may have seen from my top 10 games video analysis of the E3 Hoth demo, we have now gone from sequences that dropped to 30 are now much nearer 60. Without a side-by-side exact replica being possible, we can see here that the average rate has dramatically improved by nearly 100% in places, as I expected at the time, and it should be commended that the team concentrated on delivering the best performance and visual impact balance in a multiplayer orientated game like this. And talking of visuals, this game is not shy on flaunting its wares, and mighty impressive they are too. The consoles run what is pretty much high settings across the board on all visual settings, and this includes the FXAA high and mesh LOD level, including a decent use of parallax occlusion mapping and adaptive tessellation, which delivers a dense and detailed terrain to your eyeballs. Again, as I demonstrated in my E3 trailer breakdown back then and now, the same engine traits can be clearly seen. As in that video where I highlighted the adaptive tessellation and LOD switches, you can see these being used clearly in the game with the same engine traits, along with parallax occlusion mapping, which helps the little gullies of water to have depth in them on the Sulis map, for example, and here on PC settings high to PS4, Xbox One, you can see the same adaptive tessellation adding more vertices and thus detail to rocks, snow poles across the world, creating a very dense and, as I say, rugged terrain. It is not only impressive for the amount it uses and how abundant it is, but also in a game with such lofty and achieved tick rate, it really highlights the team's technical prowess and engine strength well. Now you can have the most detailed and rounded hose yet seen in video game form. Curvature. But the game also sports other great effects that add to its arsenal, and as I mentioned in my Need for Speed preview, the engine now sports full volumetric lighting in abundance, which uses voxels to calculate the depth and precision within the screen frustum. This means it's cooled within the screen space as an effect. See here as the crepuscular rays disappear as the camera moves down from its emitter source. But these are used throughout the game to great effect, as troopers occlude the sun, volumetric light and shadows cast down from rocks, posts and even starships in the sky, adding greatly to its visual impact. Motion blur is used at a per object and camera level, making an already smooth game that little bit better, and it aids its offline CGI aim. Depth of field is used within the game when scoped in or in its real-time cinematics, and it also includes a lovely focal length bokeh. But as on high settings here on PC, as per console shows, this has an odd placement here that is much better placed within its focal length on ultra setting, to the point where pretty much no depth of field is applied to the foreground at all. But I think this may be a bug or design choice, and removing this or adjusting the length here would look much better in the final game, in my opinion. Now onto the PC, and we can see the reasons why the PS4 is running at the 900p rate with my AMD machine of an 8-core 8350 and Radeon 7870 card. 2GB is enough to deliver the superb texture work in the game, but this machine comes nowhere near a 60 rate in its current form at 1080 with the same high settings as console. We can see it drop 8.5% of its frames in similar tested scenes, still running in the low 50s but shy of what a capped 60 game should be. But dropping to low even has some drops that the PS4 does not, and is a good example of how tight a frame rate budget is and what and why choices are made. I would be shocked to see the resolution increase on either console from this beta come launch, and with its current high setting and near rock solid metric, it is the best choice. Added in with a TAA or improving it would be the best solution. But here dropping the PC to the same 900p with an upscale at high gets us a near identical level as the PS4 and really demonstrates how efficient the engine is. With the improvements from the E3 not only showing huge performance strides, maybe from better use of asynchronous shader work within the command buffer, but also visually as particle density and alpha blending have improved over the game then till now. But my i5 GTX 970 can deliver a rock solid 1080-60 rate as expected here in ultra settings. Now these add slightly more particles in some explosions and higher resolution resolve in alpha and volumetric effects, but even side by side are near impossible to notice, but a good testament of the engine allowing you to use that power a little bit more effectively in certain areas. It does help LOD popping over high, and it is still present but further back, and that is in my opinion its biggest benefit. But it performs very well and has headroom to go maybe to 1440 resolution and keep around the 60 rate. When the final game hits, we can look at the lower levels and other levels and see how and if anything else is added into the PC top spec list.
Onto our AT-AT.
The game's accomplished presentation is equally delivered with its incredible animation and physics, as thermal detonators explode, blowing rebels and empires alike through the air, or shot and slump as they slide down snow-covered humps or hills. Its procedural implementation means impacts to knees, arms, heads all react as expected, and along with them running or rocket packing into action, really sells the immersion with the visuals and sumptuous lighting model that fools you at times you are playing a game and not some CGI Star Wars movie. It is not only the human enemies that have been treated to this expert level of intricate animation frames. AT-ST stomping like they have just escaped the set of the latest movie shoot. The weight and mechanical nature and sway is frighteningly accurate that you simply do not question these are not models instead of polygon created meshes rendered in pixels. The incredibly rich art style it can draw inspiration from and mimic helps with the genius of Ralph McQuarrie delivering such grand art in the original trilogy, but it should not lessen the passion and care that has been lavished on the game and just how authentic it is. From the crystal pixel specular of the snow on Hoth, also used again with the volcanic rock of Sullust, which highlights some of the more technique improvements since the last game, as here with the snow on the locker being a simple blend of two textures at separate rates and camera orientation. The new system is much more authentic and convincing. The procedural animation, incredible light reaction models delivers a near photorealistic world that a game with half its frame rate would be proud of, and rightfully so. The thought of the sections we have yet to see like Endor, the Millennium Falcon or speeder bike chases and more is a treat I am looking forward to. But we cannot mention Star Wars films or a game without bringing up sound, and this has received just as much lavish attention as all other areas of the game, from its rousing and iconic John Williams score that cannot fail to bring out the inner child in you as you hear the theme start mid-battle as you push on for victory against the Empire on Hoth. Adversely hearing the Empress theme rising as you crush the rebel scum. Seeing Luke or Darth Vader in battle is a great experience, only bettered by playing them yourself, although the only time I think the animation is not as impressive, with its third person view highlighting its lack of keyframes. Luke is much more affected by this than Darth. Music is not only its strong point, as sound and design is just as vital and well delivered. From Sprocket Systems' own hero Ben Burt, we are greeted with the sounds of the universe, from lightsaber clashes, laser blasts and mechanical thuds of attack walkers. Even the Winchester sampled indie handgun shot is used for the rifle, and like everything here, it all sounds amazing. With post-processing being applied to sound as much with the distant yowls of comrades mid-battle to the inclusion of all noise when inside the safety of an energy shield. It never fails to deliver and immerse you with its stunningly authentic recreation of some of the most famous sets and scenes in cinema history. This game literally deserves a high quality 7.1 surround system. Within the game's options you can tailor it best to suit, and my word, it delivers an audio treat just as much on your eyes as on your ears. It really is an impressive showing.
An enemy bomber has locked onto our AT-AT.
Console owners can also find yet more hope in a 1080p display, which is not entirely removed as a choice, though it does come at a sacrifice. Playing the split screen co-op mode, not an option on PC, with only the online co-op mode an option here, as you would get on the console release also. But on both consoles it runs at a fully native 1080p, but at half the frame rate of 30 FPS. Albeit with some minor frame pacing issues also. But each player is treated to her or his own 1920 by 540 screen with which to enjoy the mission level. This is obviously due to the much lower requirement on frame time. Again showing that the team have deliberated well on the choices to deliver the best possible visual and control experience, and not just ported to console and hit the build button. It does have some issues, and certainly the single player missions here are one of the weakest points of the beta, highlighting some of the issues with the gameplay. It certainly needs far more AI coming on screen, and far cleverer AI, with the obvious scripted path being seen here. With obviously the option to increase the difficulty when the final game ships, along with certain levels using AI to fight alongside you as well as against, and cooperative play, it should be far more fun on certain maps, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. The multiplayer has the cutbacks as predicted from my E3 preview, but also these are CPU and probably server driven, with even now the original game on console, Battlefield 4, still having server issues and sound issues. So the cutbacks here have lost some of that dynamic action, but I feel that the game delivers very well on the intense action and allows the games to feel more exciting, with a genuine push through the Hoth level where you all feel connected. The lack of in-game voice chat is a bit of a problem outside of using a party up option. It is a shame, and I've heard not going to appear in the final game either, so I'm not too sure on how that's going to work out, but it's still enjoyable without that. Certainly server wise and connection wise there is no problems at all. There's no rubber banding, jumping into a game is very fast, there's no issues, you don't wait around for ages, everything seems effective, smooth, and they certainly have delivered on their promise of improving over that original Battlefield launch. DICE have really captured the feel, style and passion of Star Wars here, and the beta does a superb job of delivering a taste of the full game. A little bit slow at first, but once you get into it you certainly feel like you're part of the action. The only downside is some of the weapons and equipment can make you feel a little bit unbalanced, more so when I'm jumping between different versions and therefore different levels of action, realising how different it can feel and how weak some of the earlier weapons are. With one of the fastest and most effective matchmaking systems, solid server performance helped by its use of dedicated servers, and all the issues, nightmares and bad taste of the Battlefield launch have been removed here, leaving only a superbly crafted, rock solid performing and technically accomplished game that stands as a crown in not only multi-platform games and engines, but also games this generation full stop, and one that I am desperate to spend more time enjoying come launch, and you can be sure that a galaxy far, far away will not be far from my gaze or analysis. I hope you guys and girls enjoyed this. If you did, then please hit the like and subscribe button. It really helps me immensely, and I appreciate each and every one of you that does. Leave all your thoughts and feedback below, and I'll reply as soon as possible. You guys and girls take care. I'll see you soon on the next one.